Tonight, we're plonking you right in the heart of York, 14th century style, where the air's thick with coal smoke, and the blacksmith's hammering away like he's got a personal vendetta against iron. Picture yourself sprawled by his hearth, the fire crackling like it's gossiping about the day's dramas. You're knackered, mate, but the glow's warm, and the blacksmith's got this cheeky grin, like he knows you're about to make a fool of yourself. Spoiler, you probably will. Tripping over an anvil's basically your destiny. So, before you get cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I'm doing here. Drop a comment telling us where you're listening from and what time it is. I'm curious if you're tucked in bed or sneaking this at work. Now, turn off the lights. Switch on the fan for that gentle hum. And let's start tonight's journey together. You're slouched on a rickety stool, the kind that wobbles like it's got a grudge. The blacksmith's shop in York's, a proper chaos, tools strewn everywhere. Sparks flying like they're auditioning for a meteor shower. The fire's roaring, and you're half convinced it's judging your life choices. You're not a local, mate. You're just some drongo who wandered in, hoping for a warm spot to rest. The blacksmith, a burly bloke named Tom, gives you a nod. His hands are black with soot, and his apron's seen better days. But he's got this spark in his eye, like he's about to tell you the juiciest yarn in all of Yorkshire. Outside, York's alive, but not in that in-your-face way. It's 1,375, and the city's a maze of timber houses leaning into each other like they're sharing secrets. You hear distant shouts from the market, the clang of a church bell, and the occasional splash of someone emptying a chamber pot into the street. Charming. Right, Tom's hammering a horseshoe, each clang vibrating through your bones. You're trying to look useful. But let's be real, you'd swing that hammer and miss the iron completely. You try blacksmithing, mate. You'd spark a fire that'd burn York to the ground. Tom pauses, wiping sweat off his brow, and starts yabbering about the Battle of Neville's Cross happened back in 1346. A proper dust-up between the English and Scots. The English, led by some lordly types, smashed the Scots near Durham, capturing their king, David Tua. Tom reckons it was a turning point. Kept the North safe for a bit. You nod, pretending you know what he's on about, but you're mostly distracted by the fire's glow, all hypnotic and cozy. It's like the flames are whispering, "Mate, just chill." Here's a quirky bit, Tom says. Blacksmiths back then sometimes doubled as dentists. Yep. If your tooth's aching, Tom'd grab his pliers and yank it out. No questions asked. You wince, imagining yourself in his chair. Good luck explaining anesthetic to a bloke who thinks leeches are cutting-edge medicine. You reckon you'd rather chew with a gap than let Tom near your gob. Now, historians love a good Barney over this. Was Neville's Cross a strategic masterstroke or just dumb luck? Some reckon the English planned it like chess grandmasters. Others say the Scots just tripped over their own kilts. Tom's no scholar, but he's got opinions, waving his hammer like it's a debate club gavel. You're half listening, half mesmerized by the sparks, each one fizzling out like your attempts to stay awake. You shift on the stool, and it creaks like it's begging for mercy. Tom chuckles, saying you look like a knight who's lost his horse, his armor, and his dignity. You laugh. But mate, he's not wrong. Stick you in a joust, and you'd be flat on your back before the trumpet stopped blowing. The fire pops, sending a spark onto your sleeve. You swat it off, heart racing, while Tom cackles. Reckon you'd fight a dragon, he asks. You'd probably offer it a cuppa and hope it leaves you alone. The shop's walls are hung with tools, tongs, chisels, and something that looks like a medieval torture device, but's probably just for bending iron. You're tempted to touch one, but knowing your luck, you'd knock the whole lot down and start a riot. Tom's telling you about his mate, a farrier who swore he saw a fairy in the woods. You smirk. Fairies, more like too much ale, but in this flickering light, with shadows dancing like ghosts. You're almost ready to believe in pixies, Another joke for you. You try shoeing a horse, you'd end up with a hoof in your face and a very cranky pony. Tom's got a story about that. Some poor sod who got kicked into next week. You're laughing. But the fire's warmth is pulling you under. Like a soft blanket you can't resist. Your eyelids droop. And Tom's voice, gruff but kind, starts blending with the crackle of logs. He's banging on about York's walls now. Built to keep out invaders, but mostly stopping drunk locals from falling into the river. You picture yourself patrolling those walls, tripping over your own cloak like a proper numpty. Tom catches your yawn and grins. Not cut out for the night watch. Are ya? Nope. Mate. You're cut out for a nap. And this hearth's practically singing you a lullaby. The orthodox bit again, Neville's Cross wasn't just a brawl. It solidified England's grip on the north, letting York thrive as a trade hub. Tom's proud of that. Says it's why his shop's busy. You nod. But you're more focused on not tipping off the stool. The quirky fact pops up again in your head. Blacksmith dentists. You imagine Tom's pliers and shudder. No thanks. Mate. You'll keep your dodgy molars. The debate lingers too. Was it tactics or chaos that won the day? You're no historian. But you're leaning toward chaos. Sounds more like your life. Tom's hammering again. And each strikes like a heartbeat. Steady and grounding. You're sinking deeper into the moment. The world outside fading. York still out there. Buzzing with life. But here, it's just you. Tom. And the fire. One last laugh, you try forging a sword. You'd end up with a wonky butter knife and a very disappointed king. Tom's eyes twinkle as he tells you about a lad who tried just that. Ended up with a blade that wouldn't cut cheese. You're giggling. But the fire's winning. Wrapping you in a haze of warmth. Your head nods. And Tom's voice is a distant hum. Like waves on a shore. The shop's a cocoon now. All shadows and soft light. You're not sure if you're awake or dreaming. But it doesn't matter. Tom's still yabbering. Something about a feast tomorrow. But you're drifting. Carried by the rhythm of his hammer and the fire's gentle song. You're safe here. Mate. In this smoky, spark-filled world. Where history's just a story. And sleep's the real adventure. You're still in Tom's blacksmith shop in York. Mate. But now you're not just loafing about. You're holding a hammer. And Tom's got this mad idea you're gonna help him forge something. The fire's roaring like it's cheering you on. But let's be honest, you're about as useful as a chocolate teapot. The air's thick with smoke. And your hands are sweaty. Gripping the hammer like it's a live snake. Tom's grinning. All soot and swagger. Saying, give it a whack. You'll be a legend. Spoiler, you won't. You're more likely to bash your own thumb and cry for mum. Remember that spark that nearly set your sleeve on fire last section? Yeah. That was just a warm-up for the chaos you're about to unleash. The shop's a proper mess. Iron bars scattered like pickup sticks. Tongs hanging crooked. And a bucket of water hissing every time a red-hot horseshoe gets dunked. You're standing by the anvil. And it's solid as a rock. Unlike your confidence, Tom's got a chunk of iron glowing orange. And he's telling you to hit it square. You raise the hammer. Feeling like a knight about to slay a dragon. But when you swing, it's a total shambles. The hammer glances off, sending a spark flying like a cranky firefly. Tom cackles. Mate. You swing like a drunk bard. You try forging a nail. You'd end up with a pretzel and a very confused carpenter. Outside, York settling into the evening. 1375 style. The streets are quieter now. Just the odd clatter of a cart or a dog yapping. You catch a whiff of fresh bread from somewhere, mixing with the shop's smoky tang. It's grounding. Like the world's reminding you, there's more to life than your rubbish hammer skills. Tom's still yabbering. Telling you about the Black Death Orthodox history alert. It swept through York in 1349, wiping out half the city. Shops like Tom's went quiet. No one needing horseshoes when they were too busy burying mates. He says it's why he works hard now. Keeps the fire hot to honor the ones who didn't make it. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval blacksmiths sometimes made lucky charms, like horseshoes with weird runes, to ward off evil spirits. Tom's got one nailed above the door. Says it keeps the fairies from nicking his tools. You smirk, picturing a tiny pixie running off with a hammer. You'd chase it, trip over a bucket, and end up in a heap classic. You glance at the charm, half expecting it to glow. But it's just rusty iron, older than Tom's jokes. Now, the scholars love a stoush over this. Did the Black Death reshape York's economy, or just shuffle the deck? Some reckon it made blokes like Tom richer, with fewer workers meaning higher wages. Others say it was a slow grind. No one bouncing back quick. Tom's take. Less folk. More work for me. You nod. But you're distracted, trying not to drop the hammer on your foot. The fire's glow is pulling you in again, all warm and hypnotic, like it's whispering, "Mate, give up and have a nap." You swing again, and this time you hit the iron sort of. It's more of a tap, like you're patting a cranky dog. Tom laughs so hard he nearly chokes on his own beard. You call that forging my gran could do better? And she's half blind, you grin. But your arms are screaming, and you're starting to think, blacksmithing's not your calling. You try making a sword, you'd end up with a wonky spoon and a very unimpressed knight. The fire pops, sending another spark your way, and you dodge it like you're in some medieval dodgeball game. Tom's telling you about his apprentice now, a lanky kid who's all thumbs. Last week, the kid dropped a hot iron in the water bucket, sent steam everywhere, and Tom swore he saw a ghost in the mist. You laugh, picturing yourself doing the same, probably screaming and running for the hills. The shop's walls seem closer now, the shadows softer, like they're hugging you. Your eyelids are heavy, and Tom's voice is a low rumble, blending with the fire's crackle. It's like the whole place is conspiring to lull you into a doze. Another joke: you try shoeing a horse, you'd get kicked to next Tuesday and spend the week picking hay out of your hair. Tom's got a yarn about that. Some poor sod who ended up in the river after a horse took offense. You're chuckling, but the warmth's winning, wrapping you in a fuzzy haze. You lean against the anvil, which is a bad move. It's still hot. And you jump, yelping like a pup. Tom's in stitches, saying you're more entertainment than help. Mate. He's not wrong. The orthodox bit again, the Black Death didn't just kill. It changed York. Made it leaner, tougher. Tom says the city's like his iron, stronger after the fire. You nod, but you're more focused on not burning yourself again. That quirky fact about Lucky Charms sticks in your head. Imagine you trying to carve runes. You'd probably spell help by accident and summon a flock of pigeons. The debate's still there too. Economy, boom or bust. You're betting on boom. But only 'cause you like Tom's optimism. One more laugh you try. Running this shop, you'd have sparks in your hair, iron in the wrong places, and a queue of angry farmers at the door. Tom's telling you about a time he forgot to lock up, and a goat wandered in, ate his lunch, and knocked over a rack of tools. You're giggling, picturing yourself chasing that goat, slipping in the muck, and making everything worse. The fire's still going, but it's softer now, like it's tired too. Your head's nodding, and Tom's voice is a distant hum, like a mate telling you it's all gonna be all right. The shop's a proper sanctuary, all glow and shadow. You're not sure if you're forging iron or just dreaming of it, but it's cozy. Mate. Like a hug from a grumpy uncle. Tom's still banging on about something, probably another story about his apprentice, but you're drifting, carried by the fire's rhythm and the weight of the hammer in your hands. You're safe here, in this smoky, spark-filled world, where York's just a heartbeat and sleep's creeping in like an old mate. You're out of Tom's shop now. Mate. Stumbling through York's dark alleys like a possum caught in headlights. The blacksmith's hearty laugh is still ringing in your ears. Remember that dodgy hammer swing you tried? Yeah. He's probably still chuckling about it. The night's cool, with a nip in the air that makes you pull your cloak tighter, though it's more like a glorified sack. And you're pretty sure it smells like last week's stew. Moonlight's spilling over the timber houses, all crooked and leaning like they're having a yarn with each other. You're meant to be heading somewhere, maybe back to a mate's place, but York's lanes are a maze. and you're about as good at navigating as a kangaroo on a skateboard. The alley's narrow, barely wide enough for you to avoid brushing against the damp walls. You hear a cat yowl somewhere. And a splash. That's probably someone's chamber pot meeting the cobblestones. Lovely. York. Real classy. Your boots squelch in something you'd rather not identify. And you mutter a curse under your breath. You try sneaking through medieval streets, mate. You'd trip over a stray chicken and wake the whole city. The moon's your only light, casting shadows that look like dodgy blokes lurking. But it's just barrels, and the odd broom propped against a wall. You're in 1375. And York's got this gritty charm. All hustle by day and eerie quiet by night. Tom mentioned the Peasants' Revolt earlier, Orthodox history moment. It's a few years off. 1381. But the rumbles are already there. Folk like Tom, working their guts out, are fed up with taxes and lords who reckon they own the air they breathe. It'll kick off in the south. But York'll feel the ripples. With markets buzzing about rebellion, you nod to yourself, pretending you're clued up. But you're mostly focused on not face-planting in the muck. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval folk believed cats were linked to witches, and a black one crossing your path was bad news. You spot one now, eyes glinting like it's plotting your downfall. You laugh, imagining yourself trying to shoo it, probably end up with a scratched face and a reputation as the town drongo. You reckon you'd adopt it instead. Name it Fluffy, and start a medieval cat cafe. Good luck pitching that to the local priest. Scholars love a blue over this. Was the Peasants' Revolt a proper uprising or just a mob losing the plot? Some say it was organized, with leaders like Wat Tyler planning a revolution. Others reckon it was chaos. Folk, just sick of being skint. You're no expert, but chaos sounds about right. Bit like your current attempt to find your way. The alley twists, and you nearly stack it over a crate. You try being a medieval night watchman. You'd be snoring on duty and let a whole army stroll in. The air's got this damp, earthy smell, like rain's coming. You hear a distant fiddle from a tavern, all jaunty and off-key, and it makes you grin. You're tempted to head that way, but your legs are heavy, and the moon's light is weirdly soothing, like it's telling you to slow down. You lean against a wall, catching your breath, and the world feels quieter, like York's holding its breath too. Your heart's still racing from that near miss with the crate, but you're starting to relax, the night wrapping you up like a warm blanket. Another joke you tried, dodging chamber pots in York. You'd end up with a new hairstyle and a story no one believes. You chuckle, picturing yourself ducking and weaving like some medieval ninja, only to cop a bucketful anyway. The alley's shadows are softer now, less like bandits and more like old mates. You're starting to feel at home, even if you're lost as a sheep in a storm. The cat's still there, watching you, and you give it a nod, like your mates now. It flicks its tail and scarpers, leaving you to your wandering. You're thinking about Tom's shop, the fire's glow, and that lucky horseshoe charm he swore by. You wonder if it'd help you find your way. But knowing your luck, you'd trip over it instead. You try casting a medieval spell. You'd probably summon a flock of pigeons and a very cranky wizard. The thought makes you laugh, but it's a sleepy laugh, the kind that comes when you're half gone. The alley's leading you somewhere, maybe to the river, maybe nowhere, but you're not fussed. It's just you and the night now. York's heartbeat under your feet. The Orthodox bit again. The Peasants' Revolt was a big deal. Lit a fire under the working folk. Even if it didn't topple the king, Tom'd probably be out there, hammer in hand. If it hit York, you smile, picturing him giving some lord a serve. That quirky cat fact still in your head. Imagine you trying to convince folk Fluffy's not a witch's pet. You'd be laughed out of town or worse. Stuck, explaining yourself to a bishop. The debate's there too. Uprising or riot. You're betting on a bit of both. Like most things in life. One more laugh you try mapping York's alleys. You'd end up with a scribble that looks like a drunk spider's web. You're giggling. But the moon's winning. Its light pulling you into a dreamy haze. Your steps are slower, each one sinking you deeper into the night. You hear an owl hoot, and it's like a lullaby. Soft and steady. The alley's a tunnel now, all shadows and whispers. And you're drifting, carried by the cool air and the memory of Tom's fire. You're safe here, mate, in this moonlit, muck-filled world, where York's just a story and sleep's sneaking up like a cheeky thief. You've stumbled out of York's alleys, mate, and now you're plonked in a tavern, the kind of place where the ale's dodgy and the vibes are pure 1375 chaos. The moonlit stumble from last section. Remember tripping over that crate like a proper drongo? Yeah. It's led you here, to a smoky den packed with locals, all yabbering over each other. You're perched on a wobbly bench, clutching a mug of ale that tastes like it's been brewed in a boot. The fire's crackling, the bard's strumming something that's more noise than music, and you're trying to blend in, but your cloak's still damp from the alley muck, and you're pretty sure everyone knows you're not from around here. The tavern's a riot of smells, spilt ale, sweaty blokes, and something roasting that might be mutton or might be regret. You're squinting through the haze, catching snippets of gossip about taxes and some lord who's been fleecing the market. The bard, a skinny fellow with a beard like a bird's nest, is belting out a tune about a knight who fought a dragon and lost badly. You try singing along, mate. You'd sound like a cat in a blender and get booed off the bench. You take a sip of ale instead, wincing as it burns its way down. The fire's glow is cozy, though, pulling you in like Tom's hearth did back in the shop. This is York, still 1375, and the tavern's buzzing with life. But there's an undercurrent of grumbling. Tom mentioned the peasants' revolt last section. And here's the orthodox history bit. It's brewing, mate. In 1381. It'll explode. But even now, folk are fed up with poll taxes hitting everyone the same. Rich or poor, you hear a bloke at the next table muttering about it, saying the king's got no clue how skint they are. You nod, trying to look wise, but you're mostly focused on not spilling your ale. The fire's hypnotic, and your eyelids are starting to droop, like the tavern's rocking you to sleep. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval taverns often doubled as post offices. Yep. If you wanted to send a letter, you'd give it to the innkeeper, who'd pass it to a traveler heading the right way. You imagine yourself trying to post a note, probably hand it to the bard by mistake, and end up with your love letter sung to the whole pub. You'd be the talk of York, and not in a good way. You chuckle, picturing the bard, warbling your terrible handwriting to a tune about dragons. Scholars get their knickers in a twist over this. Were taverns like this hotbeds for rebellion, or just places to whinge over ale? Some reckon they were where the peasants' revolt got its spark, with folk plotting over pints. Others say it was all talk, no action, just blokes blowing off steam. Your leaning toward the whinge theory sounds like every pub you've ever been to. The bard's moved on to a new song now, something about a mermaid, and it's so off-key, you're tempted to lob a bread roll at him. You try being a medieval bard, you'd rhyme love with glove and get chased out of town. The tavern's warm, but it's a loud kind of cozy, with shouts and laughter bouncing off the timber walls. You're sinking into the bench, the ale making you fuzzy, and the fire's crackle is like a mate whispering, "Just close your eyes. You'll be right." You catch a whiff of that roasting mutton again, and your stomach rumbles, but you're too knackered to hunt down a plate. The bloke next to you's telling a yarn about a mate who saw a ghost in the minster, and you're half listening, half drifting. You try ghost hunting in York. You'd trip over a gravestone and scare yourself silly. Another joke, you try brewing this ale, you'd end up with something that'd strip paint and make the whole tavern gag. You laugh, imagining yourself stirring a cauldron of sludge while the innkeeper yells at you. The fire pops, sending a spark onto the floor, and you flinch, nearly tipping your mug. The bard's still going, and you're starting to think he's got no off switch. His latest verse is about a knight's lost helmet, and you're grinning. Picturing yourself losing your cloak in a tavern brawl wouldn't be the first time you've lost something tonight. You're thinking about Tom's shop again, that lucky horseshoe charm glinting above the door. You wonder if it'd get you a free ale. But knowing your luck, you'd just spill it. The tavern's like a louder version of the shop. All heat and stories. But it's pulling you under just the same. Your head's nodding, and the bard's voice is blending with the fire's crackle. Like a wonky lullaby. You try dancing to his tune, you'd step on every toe in York and start a riot. The orthodox bit again, the peasants' revolt was fueled by places like this, where folks swapped gripes and got fired up. You can feel it. The tension under the laughter. Like a storm waiting to break. That quirky post office fax still in your head. Imagine you trying to send a letter. You'd probably address it to King, Big Castle, and hope for the best. The debate's there too, rebellion, or just hot air. You're betting on a bit of both. Like most nights in a pub. One more laugh, you try running this tavern. You'd have spilt ale, broken benches, and a bard singing your failures by morning. You're giggling, but the fire's winning. Its glow wrapping you in a haze. The tavern's a cocoon now. All noise and warmth. And you're drifting, carried by the clink of mugs and the bard's endless warbling. You're safe here, mate, in this smoky, ale-soaked world, where York's just a heartbeat and sleeps sneaking in like a cheeky mate with a pint. You've slipped out of the tavern's chaos, mate, and now you're sneaking along York City walls. The night air cool and sharp like a slap from a cranky aunt. That bard's off-key warbling from last section, remember? Nearly chucking a bread roll at him. Yeah. It's still echoing in your head as you climb the stone steps. Your cloak flapping like a dodgy superhero cape. The walls loom high. Built to keep out invaders, but mostly stopping drunks like you from tumbling into the ditch below. You're pretending you're a knight on patrol. All noble and stealthy. But let's be real. You're about as sneaky as a bull in a bottle shop. Tripping over your own boots and swearing under your breath. The moon's out, painting the walls silver, and York sprawled below. All timber roofs and wisps of chimney smoke. You hear the Ouse River gurgling nearby, and somewhere a dog's barking, probably at you for looking so shifty. Your heart's thumping, half from the climb, half from the thrill of being up here. Like you're in on some medieval secret. You try being a real knight-mate. You'd get lost in your own armor and cry for a map. The stones are cold under your hands, worn smooth by centuries of blokes like you, thinking they're tougher than they are. It's still a Tucson 300 Utiofem. And these walls are York's pride. Built after invasions like the one at Stamford Bridge in 1066 Orthodox History Alert. That was when Harold Hardrada, some Viking big shot, got his arse handed to him by King Harold's boys before William the Conqueror rocked up. York's walls got a glow up after, making the city a fortress. You nod, trying to look like you know your history. But you're mostly focused on not slipping off the edge. The night's quiet. Just the wind whispering through the battlements. And it's lulling you, like a mate telling you to chill. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval folk reckoned the walls were haunted by Roman ghosts. Leftovers from when York was Eberacum. You glance over your shoulder, half expecting a toga-wearing spook to pop up. You'd probably scream, trip, and roll right off the wall. Classic you. You chuckle, imagining yourself trying to reason with a ghost mate. I'm just here for the view. Don't haunt me. The wind picks up, and you pull your cloak tighter, feeling the night settle into your bones. Scholars love a Barney over this. Did York's walls really stop invasions? Or were they more for show? Like a medieval flex. Some say they scared off enemies. Others reckon they were useless once cannons showed up. You're no expert, but you're leaning toward flex. Looks impressive. Keeps the locals feeling safe. You lean against a battlement, catching your breath, and the view's cracking rooftops glowing under the moon. Like York's tucked in for the night. You try archery from up here. You'd shoot your own foot and start a citywide panic. The stones are rough, carved with old graffiti names. Crosses, maybe a rude drawing or two. You're tempted to add your own, but knowing your luck, you'd get caught and spend the night in a dungeon. You hear a creak behind you, probably just the wind, but your heart skips. You're starting to think those Roman ghosts aren't such a joke. You try ghost busting in York, you'd wave a stick, yell "begone," and accidentally whack yourself in the face. You laugh, but it's a sleepy laugh. The kind that comes when the night's winning. The walls stretch on, curving around the city like a stone hug. You're walking slower now, each step heavy, like the night's pulling you down. The river's glint catches your eye, and you pause, leaning out to see it better. Bad move, you nearly lose your balance and flail like a startled chook. You try scaling these walls in a siege. You'd be the first one stuck in the ditch, begging for a ladder. The thought makes you grin, but the moon's light is soft, soothing, like it's telling you to ease up. You're thinking about Tom's shop again, that fire's glow, and the tavern's rowdy warmth. Up here, it's different, quiet, open, like York's letting you in on its secrets. The wind's carrying a faint bell chime, maybe from the minster, and it's like a lullaby. Slow and steady, you're sinking into the moment, the world fading to just you, the walls, and the night. You try keeping watch all night, you'd be snoring by midnight, dreaming of ale and bad bards. The Orthodox bid again, Stamford Bridge was a turning point. Set York up as a northern powerhouse. Walls and all. You can feel it. The city's strength under your feet. That quirky ghost fact still in your head. Imagine you trying to chat up a Roman specter. You'd probably offer it a pint and get a ghostly eye roll. The debate's there too. Walls as defense or ego. You're betting ego. But only 'cause you like the view. One more laugh. You try building these walls. You'd drop every stone, bury yourself, and call it a day. You're giggling, but the night's winning, wrapping you in a dreamy haze. You're safe here, mate, on these ancient stones, where York's just a whisper and sleep's creeping in like a cheeky mate with a blanket. You've clambered down from York's walls, mate, and now you're in the thick of the city's market, though it's more of a chaotic jumble than the neat stalls you'd pictured. That near tumble off the battlement's last section, remember flailing like a startled chook? Yeah. It's left you a bit wobbly. And now you're dodging carts and cranky merchants like you're in some medieval obstacle course. It's daytime now. 1375 still. And the market's buzzing with folk haggling over fish, cloth, and some dodgy-looking pies. Your cloak's still damp from last night's alley adventure. And you're clutching a few coins, hoping to score a loaf or maybe a miracle to fix your bartering skills. Spoiler, you're about as good at haggling as a wallaby at chess. The air's thick with smells fresh bread, sweaty horses, and a whiff of something that's either cheese or someone's boots. You're weaving through the crowd, trying not to trip over a pile of turnips or a kid chasing a chicken. A merchant's yelling about his finest wool, but it looks like it's been chewed by moths. You try buying it, mate. You'd end up with a scratchy scarf and a lighter purse. You've got Tom's hearty laugh in your head, probably cackling at the thought of you playing market hero. The sun's warm, though, and the chatter's lulling you. Like a noise, but cozy blanket. This is York's heart, pumping with trade. And it's been like this since the Normans rolled in Orthodox history moment. After William the Conqueror took over in 1066, he made York a key spot for markets, taxing every bolt of cloth and barrel of ale. It's why this place is heaving. Folk from all over Yorkshire, flogging their wares. You nod, pretending you're clued up, but you're mostly focused on not stepping in horse muck. The crowd's a blur of cloaks and caps, and you're starting to feel like you're in a medieval mosh pit. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval markets had pie powder courts, quick tribunals for sorting out dodgy deals, like if someone sold you a pie with more gravel than meat. You grin, imagining yourself dragging a shifty baker to court, only to trip over your cloak and lose your case. You'd be the laughingstock of York, demanding justice with pie crumbs on your face. You try running a stall, you'd give away your stock, mix up your coins, and end up owing the pie court a fortune. Scholars love a stoush over this. Did markets like York's drive England's economy? Or were they just local chaos with extra shouting? Some reckon they linked towns to global trade, with wool heading to Flanders and spices coming back. Others say it was small fry, mostly farmers swapping leeks. You're no economist, But chaos feels right, bit like your current attempt to haggle for a loaf. You offer a merchant 2 coins, and he looks at you like you've insulted his gran. You try bartering for real. You'd trade your cloak for a rotten apple and call it a win. The market's loud, with hawkers shouting and a donkey braying like it's auditioning for a choir. You're tempted to buy a pie. But after that pie powder fact, you're paranoid. It's got more dirt than dough. You lean against a cart, catching your breath, and the sun's warmth is pulling you under. Like a mate saying, just have a breather. Your coins jingle in your pocket, and you're half tempted to spend them on a shiny trinket. But knowing your luck, it'd be cursed. You try buying a lucky charm. You'd pick the one that summons rain and spend the day soaked. A kid runs past, nearly knocking you over, and you flail, dropping a coin into the mud. You dive for it, looking like a proper drongo. And the merchant laughs, saying you're worse than his dog at fetching. You grin, but your cheeks are burning. You try racing that kid. You'd be eating dust and begging for a nap by the first lap. The crowd's still heaving, but it's cozy in its own way. All life and noise. Your eyelids are heavy, and the market's hum is blending with the memory of Tom's fire. Like a song you can't shake. You're thinking about the tavern now, that bard's terrible rhymes, and the wall's moonlit view. The market's different, louder, messieurs, but it's got the same York heartbeat. A woman selling herbs, and the smell of lavender hits you, soft and calming. You're sinking into the moment, the world fading to just you, the crowd, and the sun. You try keeping up with this lot, you'd be lost in 5 minutes, nicking someone's carrots by mistake. You laugh, but it's a sleepy laugh, the kind that comes when you're half gone. The orthodox bit. Again, Norman markets like this set York up as a trade hub, linking it to the world. You can feel it, the city's pulse in every shout and coin. That quirky pie powder fact still in your head. Imagine you in that court, trying to explain why your pie's got a bone in it. You'd stammer, drop your evidence, and get fined for wasting time. The debate's there too, global trade or local noise. You're betting noise, but only 'cause it's drowning you out. One more laugh you try running this market. You'd have chickens in the wool, fish in the bread, and a riot by noon. You're giggling, but the sun's winning, wrapping you in a hazy glow. You're safe here, mate, in this noisy, muddy world, where York's just a heartbeat and sleep sneaking in like a cheeky mate with a pie. You've wandered out of York's hectic market, mate, and now you're chilling by the Ouse River, the water glinting like it's got secrets to spill. That botched haggle for a loaf last section. Remember the merchant eyeing you like you'd insulted his gran? Yeah. It's left you skint and a bit sheepish. So you've ditched the crowds for this quiet riverbank. It's late afternoon. Still at 2375. And the sun's dipping low, painting the sky all pink and gold. Your cloak's still a bit muddy from the market, and you're sprawled on the grass. Boots off, toes wiggling like they're finally free. A duck's paddling by, giving you a look that says, mate, you're not cut out for this medieval life. Spoiler, it's dead right. The river's calm, lapping at the bank with a soft, steady rhythm, like it's humming you a lullaby. You hear distant shouts from the market, but they're faint now, drowned out by the rustle of leaves and the occasional quack. You're holding a stick, lazily tossing it into the water, watching ripples spread like gossip. You try fishing in the Ouse mate. You'd hook your own cloak and end up swimming with that judgmental duck. You're thinking of Tom's blacksmith shop. The fire's glow, and that tavern's rowdy warmth feels like ages ago. But it's all part of York's heartbeat. Same as this river. This spot's been York's lifeline, forever Orthodox history moment. Back in 1069, William the Conqueror's lads burnt York to cinders in the harrying of the north. Trying to crush rebels, the Ouse kept flowing, though, carrying trade and rebuilding the city's spirit. You nod, pretending you're a history buff, but you're mostly focused on not dozing off in the grass. The sun's warm on your face, and the river's glint is pulling you under, like a mate whispering, just close your eyes. you'll be right. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval folk thought eels in rivers like the Ouse were magic, sometimes using their slime in potions for love or luck. You smirk, picturing yourself slathering eel goo on your face to charm. A local probably end up smelling like a swamp and scaring everyone off. You'd be the talk of York, and not in a good way. You try brewing a love potion, you'd mix up the recipe, turn your hair green, and spend the week hiding. The duck quacks again, like it's laughing at you, and you toss another stick, half hoping it'll paddle over for a yarn. Scholars love a blue over this was the harrying of the North, a brutal necessity, or just William throwing a tantrum. Some say it secured his rule, breaking the North spirit. Others reckon it was overkill, turning allies into enemies. You're no expert, but tantrum sounds about right, bit like you when you're hangry. You stretch out, the grass tickling your neck, and the river's rhythm is slowing your pulse, like it's rocking you to sleep. You try sailing this river, you'd capsize in 5 minutes and beg the duck for a tow. A breeze kicks up, carrying the smell of damp earth and something sweet. Maybe wildflowers. You're tempted to pick some, but knowing your luck, you'd grab nettles and spend the day itching. You hear a kid's laugh from the bank, and it makes you grin. York's alive. Avon here, away from the market's noise. You're sinking into the moment, the world fading to just you, the river, and that bloody duck, still eyeing you like you owe it money. You try racing it, you'd be left in its wake, splashing and swearing like a proper drongo. You're thinking about the market's chaos, the tavern's bad bard, and Tom's lucky horseshoe charm. This river's different, quiet, steady, like it's seen it all and doesn't care. The sun's dipping lower, and the sky's a proper stunner, all fiery streaks and soft purples. You're half tempted to stay here forever, but your stomach's rumbling, reminding you of that pie you didn't buy. You try cooking a medieval meal, you'd burn the pot, set your cloak on fire, and starve by sundown. You laugh, but it's a sleepy laugh, the kind that comes when the day's winding down. The orthodox bit again, the harrying was a dark time, but it made York tougher, a city that rose from ashes with the Ouse as its backbone. You can feel it, the river's strength under the surface, that quirky eel fact still in your head. Imagine you trying to catch one. You'd slip, fall in, and end up with an eel as your new best mate. The debate's there too, necessity or cruelty. You're betting cruelty, but only 'cause you're feeling mellow. One more laugh, you try mapping this river, you draw a squiggle, call it a day, and get lost on the first bend. You're giggling, but the sun's winning, wrapping you in a golden haze. You're safe here, mate, on this grassy bank, where York's just a ripple and sleep's sneaking in like a cheeky mate with a sunset. You've left the Ouse River's calm behind, mate, and now you're standing in the shadow of York Minster, feeling like a speck under its towering stone spires. That judgmental duck from last section, remember its quack mocking your riverbank loafing? Yeah, it's probably still laughing as you shuffle through the Minster's courtyard. Your cloak, catching on every cobblestone like it's got a personal vendetta. It's dusk, 1375, and the sky's a deep purple, with the first stars peeking out like nosy neighbors. The church bells are chiming, slow and heavy, vibrating through your chest like they're telling you to behave. Spoiler, you won't. You're already tripping over your own feet, looking like a drongo who's lost his way to salvation. The Minster's a beast of a building, all carved arches and stained glass glowing like a medieval disco. You're meant to be pious, soaking in the holy vibes, but you're distracted by a loose thread on your cloak and the smell of incense wafting from inside. The bells keep going, and you're half tempted to climb the tower and have a go at ringing them. But knowing your luck, you'd get stuck and spend the night dangling like a human pendulum. You try being a medieval monk, mate. You'd spill the ink, burn the candles, and nap through prayers. York's quiet here, away from the market's chaos and the tavern's racket. It's just you, the Minster, and a few pilgrims shuffling past, their hoods up like they're in a medieval spy flick. You're thinking of Tom's blacksmith shop. The fires glow, And that eel potion nonsense by the river feels like a lifetime ago. But it's all York's heartbeat. The Orthodox history bit the minster's been under construction since the 13th century. A massive project funded by rich bishops and kings to show off their clout. It's not done yet. And you can see scaffolding clinging to one tower like a dodgy haircut. You nod, pretending you're impressed. But you're mostly trying not to trip again. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval churches like the Minster had doom paintings on their walls, showing sinners getting dragged to hell by demons with pitchforks. You imagine yourself in one, painted with a dumb grin, tripping over your cloak while a demon cackles. You'd be the star of the show. York's clumsiest sinner. You try painting a fresco, you'd slop paint everywhere, turn Jesus into a smudge, and get excommunicated by lunch. A pigeon lands nearby, eyeing you like it knows your sins, and you give it a nervous wave, hoping it's not reporting to the bishop. Scholars love a Barney over. This was the Minster, a spiritual haven, or just a flex for the church's wealth. Some reckon it lifted souls, drawing pilgrims from miles away. Others say it was a cash grab, with bishops selling indulgences like dodgy car salesmen. You're no theologian, but cash grab sounds about right bit, like your attempt to haggle in the market. You lean against a wall, the stone cool against your back, and the bell's echo is pulling you under, like a mate saying, "Just rest. You'll be right." You try praying in there, you'd mumble the wrong words, sneeze during silence, and start a riot. The courtyard's empty now. Just you and the pigeon, who's still staring like it's judging your life choices. The air's thick with incense and damp stone, and you're sinking into the moment. The world fading to just you, the Minster, and those relentless bells. You hear a creak, probably a door, but you're half convinced it's a ghost from the Minster's crypt. You try ghost hunting in here, you trip over a pew, wake the dead, and run screaming into the night. You laugh, but it's a sleepy laugh, the kind that comes when dusk is winning. You're thinking about the river's calm, the market's noise, and Tom's lucky horseshoe charm. The Minster's different grand, heavy, like it's carrying York's soul. The stars are brighter now, and you're tempted to lie down right here. But the cobblestones aren't exactly a mattress. You try sleeping in a church. You'd snore through the sermon and get a broom to the head. The thought makes you grin, but the bell's rhythm is slowing your pulse, like they're rocking you to sleep. The Orthodox bit again, the Minster's a symbol of York's faith, drawing crowds and coins for centuries. You can feel it, the weight of belief in every stone. That quirky doom-painting fact still in your head. Imagine you trying to dodge those demons. You'd trip, fall into hell, and ask for a map back. The debate's there too, holy or greedy. You're betting greedy, but only 'cause you're cynical tonight. One more laugh, you try ringing those bells, you'd pull the wrong rope. Start a clang fest, and have the whole city after you. You're giggling, but the dusk's winning, wrapping you in a purple haze. You're safe here, mate, under these ancient spires, where York's just a chime and sleeps sneaking in like a cheeky mate with a prayer. You've wandered from the Minster's holy shadow, mate, and now you're back at Tom's place, plonked at his family's supper table like you've been adopted by York's gruffest blacksmith. Those Minster bells from last section, remember nearly dozing off to their chime, yeah? They're still echoing in your head as you sit, and your cloak finally dry but still smelling like a mix of river mud and tavern ale. It's evening, 1375, and Tom's house is a cozy mess, wooden beams, a fire crackling, and a table groaning under bread, stew, and some dodgy-looking cheese. Tom's wife, Meg, is dishing out portions, and their 2 kids are eyeing you like you're a stray dog who might nick their food. Spoiler, you're too knackered to cause trouble, but you're still gonna make a fool of yourself with a spoon. The room's warm, filled with the smell of mutton stew and the sound of Tom's booming laugh as he recounts your hammer-swinging disaster from the shop. You're trying to act dignified, but your stomach's growling louder than a bear, and Meg's ladling stew into your bowl with a look that says, "Eat quick, or I'll feed you to the pigs." You try being a medieval host, mate. You'd burn the stew, spill the ale, and have your guests fleeing by sundown. You're thinking of the market's chaos, the river's calm, and that dodgy bard feels like York's been dragging you through its whole story. And now you're here, stuffed in this smoky, homey nook. This is family life in York Orthodox history moment. In 1375, most folk lived like Tom's lot, scraping by but holding tight to kin, especially after the Black Death cut families in half. Tom's table is lively, with Meg scolding the kids for flicking bread and Tom boasting about a horseshoe he made for some lord's nag. You nod, pretending you're part of the crew, but you're mostly focused on not dribbling stew down your chin. The fire's glow is pulling you in, like it did in Tom's shop, and your eyelids are starting to droop, like the whole house is rocking you to sleep. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval families often slept in one big bed. Kids, parents, and sometimes a random cousin all piled in like sardines. You glance at the corner, where a straw mattress looms, and shudder. Imagine you trying to squeeze in with Tom's snoring clan. You'd roll off, land on the dog, and wake the whole street. You try sharing a bed like that, you'd kick everyone, steal the blanket, and get banished to the barn. One of the kids, a gap-toothed girl, giggles at your expression, and you wink, hoping she doesn't rat you out to Meg. Scholars love a stoush over this. Did families like Tom's thrive after the Black Death, or were they just hanging on? Some reckon fewer folk meant more land and better wages, giving families a leg up. Others say it was grim, with grief and debt weighing heavy. You're no historian, but Tom's table feels alive, so you're leaning toward thrive. You take a bite of bread, and it's tough, as leather chewing's a workout, and you're half convinced you'll lose a tooth. You try baking medieval bread, you'd end up with a rock and a very cranky village. The stew's warm, though, and Meg's watching you like a hawk. So you keep eating, even if the cheese smells like it's plotting a jailbreak. Tom's telling a yarn about a mate who got drunk and fell in the ouse, and you're laughing, nearly choking on a chunk of mutton. You try telling a story, you'd mix up the punchline, confuse everyone, and have Meg tossing you out. The kids are giggling now, and the boys mimicking your clumsy spoon work, which is fair, you're holding it like it's a shovel. The fire pops, sending a spark onto the floor, and you flinch, nearly tipping your bowl. You're thinking about the minster's grandeur, the market's noise, and that eel potion nonsense by the river. This house is different, loud but grounded, like York's heart in human form. Meg's scolding the girl for sneaking an extra bread hunk, and you grin, feeling like you're home, even if you're just a guest. You try raising kids in 1375, you'd lose them in the market. Feed them dodgy pies, and have the priest after you. You laugh, but it's a sleepy laugh, the kind that comes when the fire's winning. The Orthodox bit again. The Black Death reshaped families, made them tighter, like Tom's lot, clinging to each other in a rough world. You can feel it, the warmth under the chaos, that quirky bed-sharing fact still in your head. Imagine you trying to sleep with Tom's elbow in your face. You'd be up all night, plotting revenge. The debate's there too, thriving or surviving. You're betting thriving, but only 'cause Meg's stew is filling your belly. One more laugh, you try cooking this supper. You'd set the table on fire, serve charcoal, and have the kids staging a revolt. You're giggling, but the fire's glow is wrapping you in a haze, and Tom's voice is a low rumble, like a mate telling you it's all gonna be all right. You're safe here, mate, in this stew-scented, spark-filled world, where York's just a heartbeat and sleep's sneaking in like a cheeky mate with a bowl. You're standing outside Tom's house now, mate, under a sky so full of stars, it's like York's thrown a glitter party just for you. That hearty supper from last section, remember nearly choking on Meg's stew while the kids giggled? Yeah. It's left you full, fuzzy, and ready to call it a night. But you're not quite done with this medieval adventure. It's late, still 1375, and the air's crisp, carrying the faint clang of a distant hammer, probably Tom, still at it, or some other blacksmith who doesn't know the meaning of sleep. Your cloak's finally given up smelling like a swamp, but it's heavy, like it's begging you to lie down right here on the cobblestones. Spoiler, you're not that daft. But the stars are making a strong case for stargazing till you nod off. The street's quiet. Just the occasional creak of a shutter or a cat slinking by. Probably that same one from the alley giving you the stink eye. You're leaning against a wall, the stone cool against your back, and York's sprawled around you. All timber houses and shadowy lanes, like it's tucked in for the night. You're thinking of Tom's fire, the tavern's bad bard, and that duck by the ooze feels like you've lived a lifetime in this city. And now it's farewelling you, with a sky that's pure magic. You try mapping the stars, mate. You'd draw a smiley face, call it a constellation, and confuse every astronomer in Yorkshire. This is York's soul, laid bare under the night Orthodox history moment. In 1375, the city was a survivor, rebuilt after wars, plagues, and Norman tantrums. Like the harrying of the north you heard about by the river, it's a trade hub, a holy site, and a home, all stitched together by folk like Tom and Meg, hammering and cooking through the chaos. You nod, feeling the weight of it, but you're mostly focused on not tripping over a stray cobble. The stars are bright, pulling you in, like Tom's hearth did, and your eyelids are heavy, like the night singing you a lullaby. Here's a quirky fact. Medieval folk believed falling stars were angels dropping in for a visit, and you'd make a wish quick before they scarpered. You spot one now, streaking across the sky, and you're half tempted to wish for a better cloak. But knowing your luck, you'd get a cursed one that itches. You try wishing on a star, you'd mumble something daft, like more stew, and wake up with a bellyache. You chuckle, picturing yourself explaining your wish to Meg. She'd probably thump you with a ladle for being greedy. Scholars love a blue over this. Was York's resilience in 1375 down to its people or its walls? Markets and minster some reckon the folk, blacksmiths, merchants, even cranky bards kept the city alive. Others say the infrastructure, like those walls you nearly fell off, was the backbone. You're no expert, but you're betting on the people Tom's laugh alone could rebuild a city. You shift, the wall digging into your shoulder, and the night's calm is sinking into your bones, like a mate saying, just rest. You'll be right. You try leading York's council, you'd lose the keys, burn the records, and have the mayor chasing you with a pitchfork. The stars are a blanket now, wrapping York in light, and you're sinking deeper, the world fading to just you, the night, and that distant hammer's clang. You hear an owl hoot, soft and steady, and it's like a friend telling you to let go. You're tempted to wander back to Tom's, beg for a spot by the fire, but the street's too cozy, and your legs are done. You try dancing under these stars, you'd trip, land in a puddle, and have the cats laughing till dawn. You grin, but it's a sleepy grin, the kind that comes when the night's winning. You're thinking about the minster's bells, the market's noise, and that eel potion nonsense by the river. York's been a wild ride, but this moment stars, quiet, and a wall to lean on feels like its heart. The air's cool, smelling of wood smoke and damp stone, and you're drifting, carried by the night's rhythm. You try staying awake till dawn, you'd be snoring in 10 minutes, dreaming of pies and bad bards. You laugh, but the star's glow is pulling you under, like a mate whispering, time to go. The Orthodox bit again. York's survival was its people, its walls, its faith, all of it, woven together like Meg's stew. You can feel it, the city's pulse in every star. That quirky falling star fact still in your head. Imagine you wishing for a horse. You'd get a donkey, stubborn as you, and spend the week arguing with it. The debate's there too, people or infrastructure. You're betting both, but only 'cause you're mellow. One more laugh, you try naming these stars, you'd call them Bob and Dave. Start a riot among monks, and hide for a month. You're giggling, but the night's winning, wrapping you in a starry haze. You're safe here, mate, under York's endless sky. where the city's just a dream, and sleep sneaking in like a cheeky mate with a wink. You're still leaning against that wall. Mate. But the stars are softer now, fading into a gentle blur as York's heartbeat slows to a whisper. You're safe, far from the market's chaos, the tavern's noise, and that duck's judgy quack by the ouse. The night's wrapped you up, like a warm blanket from Meg's table, and Tom's laugh is a distant echo, kind and grounding. The air's cool, carrying the last hints of wood smoke, and your breaths are long, easy, matching the rhythm of the sleeping city. You don't need to wander anymore. York's shown you its soul. From the minster's bells to the river's glint, the stars twinkle, each one a story. And you're drifting, carried by their light, into a place where time doesn't matter. Let the cobblestones, the walls, and the night hold you. Sleeps here. Mate, soft as a wish on a falling star. And you're gone, floating under York's endless sky. Script complete. Sleep well.